Hey, welcome to Blue Jacket Apiary. It is a beautiful Saturday here in Middle Missouri. The ground's a little squishy, but hey, that's because we had a ton of rain yesterday. So, it's a little wet out. That's what happens when water falls from the sky. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than you might normally see or hear from me. I'm going to crack into my lone survivor. I'm going to give them a little bit of pollen because I'm really trying to well, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, so I'll just say that I'm going to give them some pollen because, as you know, bees live on carbohydrates and protein. The carbohydrates they get from the nectar and the honey, the protein they get from the pollen. So I'm going to give them a little bit of protein, some pollen substitute, a little early in the year because, well, we've got some trees that are finally starting to bloom and pop in my area, but with the amount of rain we had yesterday, I just don't think they're going to get much today. But hey, I'm not a bee, so they're probably going to find it. But I'm going to help them out. I'm going to get them a little bit of substitute. And then we're going to have a serious conversation about bees. So stay tuned. All right, so let's see what we got going on in here. So as you can see, we got some bees up on the top of this second box, which is just okay by me. We've got a visitor. Look at that. Hey, Cookie. And so they're up here probably getting into the honey that I gave them a while back when we first started having some gorgeous days. They're probably up here eating, and I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that there's more down below. So give me 1 second and we'll see what's going on. All right, look at that. That is awesome to see. I am so glad that this hive survived. I am so glad to see a nice size cluster. That makes my heart happy. So I am going to give them a little bit of pollen substitute. So what you didn't get to see off camera, because I'm a one-handed guy, I pulled frames over to about here, and pulled this was the last one. I've got brood on these two frames, and so that makes me happy. They're not side to side, top to bottom full of brood, but I've got honey and some pollen and brood. So I am beyond happy at this stage of the game. It's odd this year because it's March, beginning of March, and it's 53, 54 degrees. That's not normal for where I live. So I'm gonna help them out. I'm gonna throw in just a little bit of pollen patty here right over the top of the brood area, and hopefully I would come out here in a week and that'll be gone. And I am hoping that when I come out in a week, that's gone, and I've got some more brood on these other frames here. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. So hey, welcome back. So it's time to have that conversation. So I'm starting year 3, and let's take a step back in time here. I started in 2021, bought 2 nukes. I was perfectly happy with those 2. They were incredible. Went into winter of 2021 into 2022 with 2 hives, and I'm still convinced that both of them made it. I think just one absconded. So that left me with 1 hive. I bought 2 more nukes. That gave me 3. Had some split issues, ended up with 5. So I went into winter of 2022 with 5 hives. And as you know by now, I came out with 1. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been really doing some hard thinking about beekeeping. What are my goals? What do I want out of it? What's sort of my philosophy for beekeeping? What am I willing to do? What am I not willing to do? I started this whole thing wanting to be completely treatment-free. I wanted to be what I would consider a responsible beekeeper. I don't want chemicals in my hives. That's still true. And for people that are not beekeepers, there are people that are completely treatment-free. They don't do anything. They don't even feed their bees because they consider that a treatment for starvation. They don't use any chemicals for mites. They let the bees take care of themselves. Certainly nothing wrong with that. And then we have people on the other end who feed just about from the beginning of spring to the end of fall, feed over the winter, use all sorts of chemicals to treat for mites, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the other far end. And then there are about a bazillion shades between the two of people that keep bees that lean one way or another. All worth talking to, all worth hanging out with. There are people on both sides of this equation that are almost militant about having to treat, not having to treat. And there are certainly merit to both sides of this argument. I tend to lean towards the treatment-free side. I'll just say that right out front. But again, I've really had to rethink my philosophy about bees. And so I've been following some guys on YouTube who have been keeping bees longer than I have, who have far more experience than I do in all aspects of beekeeping. Things like queen rearing, doing a lot of splits in the spring, pollination. I mean, they do a lot of things that are a part of beekeeping that are certainly not a part of what I do, only because as of now, I'm just a hobbyist. You know, I got 5 boxes out there. I want to keep 5 boxes of bees alive from winter to winter. So what am I going to do? Well, I have a couple of choices. I could go buy more bees, spend $400 or $500, $600, go buy a couple more colonies, build up from there. That's one option. My other option is to take my remaining survivor over here and split it in the spring, and build up out of that survivor stock. Now, I'm going to do that regardless. Okay. I am going to try to grow that hive. I am going to try to split it again. Let them make their own queen, and really hope that I can get some amazing stock out of this hive that just seems to keep chugging along. But like I said, I've really had to rethink what I'm going to do with my bees and how I approach this whole beekeeping thing. And so I've been doing a lot of reading and researching on queen rearing. That is something I'm going to get into. Maybe not this year, but probably sooner than I might normally have, because, you know, if I don't have to buy bees to replenish those, if I can raise my own queens, then I can make my own colonies, and I don't have to worry about buying bees. The biggest concern then is making sure I pick the right traits that I want to perpetuate in my apiary. Again, not a big deal. My first concern is survival. I want them to be able to make it through the winter. My next concern is, are they varroa sensitive? Do they take on the role of keeping the mite populations down or eliminating it altogether? That's another trait that's high on my list. Those two are going to balance between 1 and 2. Those two characteristics are going to balance 1 and 2 all the time. Because I think if they can keep the mite levels low enough on their own, that they will survive. But here's the thing. There are things I can do to help them keep those mite levels down and not use chemicals in my hive. Like I said, the first year or two, I was really not doing anything for mites. I want them to be able to handle it, and those are the bees I want, the ones that survive. Well, for me in this area, that's just not, I don't want to say it's not possible, but it's looking more and more difficult every year that I keep bees, and I can't afford to just keep dumping money into bees only to have them make it through one season. I got to have bees that make it year in, year out. And I can't take 80% losses every year. I just can't. I can't afford it. And I don't want that to become the reason that I quit beekeeping. Because I truly love being a beekeeper. I do. I absolutely love it. I tend to like my bees more than people, if I was completely honest with you. So what am I going to do? Well, I think I'm going to start worrying less about colony size and colony strength. And I think I'm going to take on the whole idea or role of being a queen keeper. If I can keep the queen healthy and the queen laying large populations to go out and gather large amounts of pollen, large amounts of nectar, they can make large amounts of honey. And if they have large enough stores, then they can make it through winter. But what do I have to do to make sure that my queen stays healthy? What do I need to do to make sure that I have the best queens possible? Well, I think one aspect is I need to really rethink the whole idea of feeding or not feeding. And if I'm going to feed, what am I going to feed them? How am I going to do it? I fed a little bit last year just to see, what would happen, to see how it would affect my bees, to see, what happened to the population. And it went well. They say you learn more through your failures than you do your success. And I've certainly had my share of failures in beekeeping in the last couple of years. And like I said, it's really forced me to rethink what I'm going to do and how I'm going to approach beekeeping. And it's really forcing me to rethink how I keep my bees. So like I said, I think I'm going to pay more attention about making sure I have strong queens, because if I have strong queens, then I will have strong colonies, because as the queen goes, so goes the colony. If I can keep my queen strong and healthy and laying like the dickens, then I think I've got a good shot at having good survivor stock for my apiary and genetics that I can perpetuate and keep in my area, and just have strong bees and strong colonies and survivors year in and year out. So what's that mean? Well, I think I'm gonna have to start feeding. And I think I'm gonna have to start feeding in a way that quite a few beekeepers I've seen out there do it. I'm not a member of a club. I don't have a mentor, so I'm learning a lot on my own, and I'm sort of having to do a lot of research, which I thoroughly enjoy doing, about bees and keeping strong colonies and what it takes. I'm still not going to treat for mites. I'm still not going to throw chemicals into my hive. No Apivar, no Apiguard, none of that stuff. No OA. I'm just not going to do it, because I don't want those chemicals in my box and my wax and around my bees. I just don't, period. But there are things that I can do, and there are ways that I can feed them, and there are things that I can feed them that I think will help knock back some of the mite levels and will assist the bees in keeping the mite levels low, and low enough that they'll be able to survive and stay strong. And so this year, we're making a few changes. You're going to see, I think, a new style of beekeeping out of me. Hopefully some bigger colonies and some stronger colonies, and hopefully, knock wood, going into winter, much bigger colonies than I had last year, much stronger colonies than I have last year. And hopefully coming out of winter of 23-24, more surviving colonies. That's the key. That's my goal, survivors year in and year out. So I want to send a shout out to Castle Hives. Brian, I love you, man. You've taught me a lot. Thank you for doing what you do and making your content. And don't stop. It's good stuff. And he probably doesn't know who I am, but David Burns over in Illinois, man, you've taught me a lot. Thanks very much. So do me a favor. If you like what I send out, thank you very much. Just hit the like button, smash that subscribe button down there, and I'll see you next time here at Blue Jacket Apiary. Roll that beautiful bee footage.